Welcome to one of Minecraft's largest and most difficult mod packs ever created. There are many who have attempted to beat this mod pack, and there are many who have failed. But I've decided for one that I'm going to defeat this mod pack in its entirety. And no, it won't be easy. Trust me, it's not even going to be close. This mod pack is designed to make you frustrated. Designed to make you quit, designed to make you hang up the towel and move on. But me? No, that's not how this is gonna play out. Almost everything in this mod pack will pretty much try to kill you. Trying to mine some iron? You're dead. Decided to go for a swim or take a sip of water? You're dead. There's a giant hanging overshadow of a dragon in the sky? You are definitely dead. This mod pack adds a ton of amazing content and game-changing features like massive cities, huge above and underground dungeons, tons of new creatures with different effects based on what kind of meat they drop, and overall a ton of content to explore. And my goal? I'm not just going to beat this mod pack. I'm going to do it legitimately, and I will make it my mission to complete every challenge that this mod pack has to offer. Our patience will be tested. Oh, trust me, it's going to be a nightmare sometimes. I mean, look at this guy. And look at this, and look at that, and look at this one, and that one. Yeah, this is what we're fighting against. And if you thought that most of the danger was in the sky, well, let me tell you about the ocean, my friend. You know that big thing, that big body of water that lots of bad guys in there too. And they not only dwell in the water, but they dwell above the water on a rock, like a siren. So yeah, we're dealing with sirens. Despite the impossible difficulty of RLCraft and everything in it, I present to you the complete and full playthrough of RLCraft. We're going to very likely die repeatedly because almost anything you do in this mod pack can and will result in consequences. So we'll go ahead and smack this flint shard on this stone here. And with these flint shards, we can make a knife, but we got to get some sticks first. So there's our first stick. We can take this here, make a knife. And then from here, we're just going to be collecting these fibers, these plant fibers here, so that we can make some string and stuff like that. Oh, God. Yeah, see, I almost just got shot there. That was almost my first death. That's scary. Oh, there's a dragon. That's a dragon. Oh. And now we got to go over to these trees and smack these leaves here to get some sticks. Oh. So we'll try again. We'll keep our distance this time. And, yep, in case that happens. This is not a trap chest, and we get an iron axe right off the bat. That's pretty good. We can't even use it because we're not high enough level. In order to get wood, you have to place these down like this. This mod pack is just wild. And then when you place it down, you have to skin the logs like this to get planks. Like, isn't this just ridiculous? As well, we can also make ourselves a shield. And then, of course, we'll do a little bit of this, and we'll do a little bit of this. This is a dragon's nest, and I am very close to it. Where's the dragon? I've never seen one of these just left open. But I'm not going to get too greedy. It's becoming nighttime. So let's go back to the house. Remember, we have to play everything safe at first. Let's go over here and kind of get a little sneak peek. Now, I could literally get one-shotted by a skeleton, and it's over for me. Now, if I remember correctly, the best thing to choose for specialization is crafting. These guys can spawn with special effects, too. And these special effects can be deadly for me if I'm not careful. So you can see how quickly this is getting out of hand. But this is an excellent way for me to get XP, too. Because remember, I do need to level up in order to, progress. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and kill this guy. Because if I don't, he'll become a problem for me. Yep, that's what I thought. It can't hurt to have an upgraded shield. Let's try to... Oh my god, there's a waystone here. That is the best thing that we could have possibly found. We'll do this, and this. And now we've got ourselves a backpack. You hold shift, you right click, you place it, and it gives you all of this space. Oh.
What is the next step of the operation?
You will rue the day that you attacked me, tree man. Holy crap, you have so much health.
Goo goo gaga. Goo goo gaga.
Excuse me. What are you doing with that, villager? Now that we're geared out, we're moved into the new house. Let the mother flipping farming grind commence. Check it out. We have an actual working farm here. You might ask yourself, why would farming be important, like, at all? Well, it basically provides a quote-unquote safe way to gain experience without doing actual combat. As well, I did end up finding a grape farm right inside of this village, which is perfect because you wouldn't believe it, but grapes are actually an endgame item. And you'll probably see more of that later in this video. But yeah, grapes are endgame items. Who would have thought? There's like howling going on outside. You guys hear that?
I've got to unleash the beast.
We're gonna make a compass, and then we're gonna do this, and boom. We've got an atlas. Now check this out. I click on this thing, and it gives me a super cool looking, like, accurate map. Now we've got a little marker here, and this map is awesome because it is huge, gigantic areas, and this is gonna make exploration that much better. And I'm gonna grab some lava. It's gonna basically allow me to make unlimited purified water. So first we take 7 iron, and we make a cauldron, break into the ground here, and you place the lava, and you put this on top, and then you take this here, fill this with water, and it'll start bubbling like it's boiling, and that's how you know that you've got some purified water on your hands. I did not want to do that. And I'm gonna make another atlas, and you might be asking why. If I make another one and I stuff it in the chest here, it'll essentially allow me to make an additional copy. We can put that there, put this here, and we have an extra atlas. We combine the two together, and it gives me a copy. No matter where I am on the map, this atlas will be safe here in this chest, and it will continue to record any progress I put on this one. There is some stuff down here for us, and now we can wear this. That is amazing because now we actually have some sort of protection for when we go out. We're gonna ransack this village. Let's go ahead and get this Wayfinder too. And I kind of want to work on upgrading defense so that we can get iron armor equipped. Oh my goodness. Give me all of that. Nice. Some more tool. Oh my god. Aww. Definitely feel free to like take the dinosaurs out because, like I said, you can cook their meat and their meat gives you absorption hearts. There we go. And if you guys are enjoying this RLCraft experience, let me know in the comments below and leave a like on this video. Feel free to subscribe as well, as it is completely reversible. I would super appreciate it if you guys left a like and a comment. And as usual, I love these Minecraft mod packs. They're super fun, especially with how beautiful they look and how much content and how entertaining it is. I'm sorry, the gods made you tasty. The gods made you tasty. The gods made you tasty. Don't tell your parents. Oh, wait. They're in my stomach. That is messed up. Whoa. Hey, wait a second. Whoa, look at all the ore down here. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, no. Not friendly. Okay. Let's not panic. Head is priority to keep alive. Yeah, so that's how easy it is to die in this game. Yeah, let's take this. Free glow. Oh, God. Oh, there it goes. I had a feeling this might have been a trap. I'm in a pretty bad situation here. We need to get out of here however we can. However we can. Let's do this. It was a trap, guys. It was a trap all along. And I fell right into it like an idiot. After a couple days of exploring and looting, I eventually gathered enough experience to level up my weapons and agility so that I could now use an iron sword and a bow. A bow would be pretty useful because it basically means I don't have to get up and close and personal to anything trying to kill me. I also found this abandoned fortress kind of thing, and to my surprise, I found an insane piece of gear. What? So I know that there's an enemy combatant outside. And we're gonna make quick work of this guy. Yeah. Ah! Nope, 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 nope. He's hitting me through the wall. Oh my god. Did you just see how quickly I just came to dying there? Oh my golly. It just takes one mistake. And what's crazy is that I have full iron armor, and that guy almost just murdered me. With iron armor, things were looking pretty good, but to be honest, I was looking for a defiled biome and having no luck. So you're probably wondering, how did you get iron stuff so quick? Well, it was mostly just from farming and pretty much killing anything I came across. You see, farming is a very safe alternative to leveling up compared to doing battle towers, and can offer a solution for people trying to level up early game. But even though things seem to be going well for me so far, especially leveling up, I was really looking for a defiled biome. For some reason, it was really hard to come across in this world. It took me many days, many real-life hours just to find this thing. Apparently, it's just like a rare biome. It's dangerous too, but I really needed to find one in order to get into the battle towers. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Eruption.
Uh-oh.
The world is going to burn.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, no. Everything was too safe for too long. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I'm so screwed. Oh, yeah, I'm so screwed. Oh, my God. Go to the water, go to the water, go to the water, go to the water. Go to the water. Oh, my. You see, in RLCraft, they really don't like peace. Peace is not, they're not very big on that thing, that concept. So, yeah, there was pretty much these giant lava golems that spawned in from these little global events that occur. Oh, no. And it spawns enemies, and they can spawn in your base, and, well, they pretty much burn my village to the ground. And unfortunately, when the event ended, of course, all the creatures kind of despawned and quit spawning in, so eventually I was able to get back to that cesspool of where my stuff was, but a lot of it was covered in stone and lava, which means that it was gone forever. And once again, I was kind of set back. And to make matters worse, a literal lion came along and slaughtered me in cold blood. Wow.
You burned my house to the ground! My family's dead! What do I do? I'm gonna find you.
But despite the terrible things that were happening, I was determined to persevere and beat this mod pack. So I started up from ground zero, made a whole new set of armor, and I pushed forward despite the challenge. And not only did I survive, but I was able to use an iron pickaxe. And when I came across this gigantic tower of awesomeness, there was a bunch of ore blocks inside of it. And with this iron pickaxe, I was able to find a diamond block. You see, RLCraft is a lot like life. It's full of lessons. And despite the fact that I died and lost my stuff, I was still able to level up. I was still able to upgrade things and become stronger. I still had my double chests at the village full of items, and I learned from my lesson and began an underground base. This underground base would be imperative to my survival, because let's face it, these events that happen every once in a while are deadly, and the only way to avoid them is to just be completely out of the way. So I began my brand new base. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have the new underground humble abode. Take a look at this luxurious lifestyle down here. Everything is organized accordingly. We even have a lectern here. I've even done some research, and as you can see, the water sources down here, everything is organized into the chest perfectly. Perfectly as it should be. It's a humble abode. It's not big, it's not fancy, but you know what? It'll do the trick, and it'll keep me safe from the events. So, the village above is destroyed, but this humble abode under the ground is not. And I've actually spent so much time building this base that my farm right now is... It's literally fully grown, and that's at least like 10 levels of experience right there. And because I now had an underground base, this also meant that exploration was even more worth it. And here's why. Essentially, if I were to go out somewhere exploring and find a ton of loot, I could just stuff it all into my backpack. And then if I find a waystone, I could teleport back home and drop it all off in my organized chests. This essentially allowed me to go out, gather supplies, come back to base, and put it all away. This means that I could pretty much continuously gather items, which would later be used for crafting. In search of a defiled biome, I found places to loot, I took everything out of it, stuffed it in my bag, and pretty much became the biggest RLCraft hoarder in the entire planet. And after what felt like a millennia, I finally found a defiled biome, guys. But of course, it was guarded by a dragon, because why wouldn't it be? Why not? Why wouldn't the one place I needed to be guarded by a freaking dragon? It didn't matter, though. I found exactly what I'd been looking for all this time, and it took me a long time to find this place. I was terrified, but I knew I had to step in there in order to get something in particular that would allow me to make a new set of armor. And this set of armor was extremely powerful early game, and it would allow me to access the battle towers without taking poison damage. I was looking for defiled mushrooms, because when put into a crafting table, it allows you to make defiled powder. This defiled powder, when put on certain specific blocks from the overworld, would defile the said block. My objective was to take this defilement powder and put it on an iron block to make umbrium ingots. With this said ingot, I could make a certain set of armor which had a bunch of buffs and would help prepare me for the battle towers. And there I was, now having an entire umbrium armor set. And as you can see, I'm already quite a bit more powerful. And if that wasn't enough, I even made an additional enchanting room in my underground base, which means that I could now enchant my items. But you know what? It didn't matter that I had umbrium armor. It didn't matter that I was stronger. Do you want to know why? Because of the seasonal changes. That's right. There are seasons. And as you can see from this little temperature gauge, my guy was freezing. And it was headed towards wintertime. All the water was freezing, and I could barely feel my fingers or my face. So what did I do? I set down a lava bucket so I could heat up. And then I decided it was time to take a swim inside of that said lava. God, I'm such an idiot. This wintertime was absolutely a problem. I mean, I was freezing to death inside of my own base, but not to fret, because I do end up finding a solution for this later on. Right now, my main objective was to get into the battle towers, but I had to craft a couple of essential things first. So I started off with the Soul Gazer. When you use this on a creature, it lets you learn about the said creature, and learning about a creature is good because it allows you to summon them later on with a summoning staff. This would be useful for things like mounts and, you know, flying. That's pretty helpful. So I made a Soul Gazer, and then I proceeded to make a summoning staff. And with a little bit of iron and obsidian, I was able to upgrade the summoning staff. I then sorted through my enchanting books and decided to put Sharpness 1 on my Umbrium Saber just for the sake of having extra damage. And then I put Protection 3 on my Umbrium Helmet, as protecting your head is very vital in RLCraft. I then went outside during the nighttime and used the Soul Gazer that I had crafted on a rock, because a rock would be a flying mount that I would tame later on. I ended up going back to the battle tower and making a little safe spot inside of the wall with a bucket of lava so I could stay warm. My plan was to try to break open a block, lead the mobs to the said block, and kill them before they could get through. You see, the thing is with battle towers is that at the very top, there's a golem, and I was not anywhere near strong enough to fight this golem. So I had to steal the loot out from under his nose, because if you open the top 2 chests, it will alert him and cause him to destroy his surroundings just to kill you. This is very bad, because then he would destroy the loot, and, well, he'd probably destroy me too. So I had to steal his loot from him without him noticing. And if it weren't for this Umbrium armor giving me immunity, I would immediately die to these cave spiders, because these cave spiders would poison me. But thanks to the armor, I don't take poison damage. So there I was, at the very top of the battle tower. I put the hopper down, and I waited patiently for the loot to siphon. The top of these battle towers have usually mid-game items, although sometimes you can get some pretty rare items and baubles. All I knew is that this was my first battle tower, and I was so proud.
The loot was pouring in, and this was my first true victory in RLCraft. I went back to base and crafted a potion ring of speed, and then took it to the reforging station, which luckily is not super hard to make. I used the gold ingots that I had at my disposal to reforge it to an undying quality, which would essentially just increase my lifespan. I didn't just make one of these, I made 2 of them. And I realized that I enjoyed the protection from the diamond armor, but I would soon switch back to the umbrium armor thanks to the strength effect. The strength, speed, and immunity, along with my diamond saber and diamond shield, made me quite formidable. And as I searched around in the water to find Silex, I realized that these little blue fish are exactly what I need to tame a rock. I was also at a point in the game where enchanting was important, and I got double jump on my Umbrium boots, which does exactly what it says. I was at the point in the game now where battle towers were actually not too difficult, which is kind of crazy to say considering it's RLCraft, in which each level that I was progressing, I was unlocking more perks and becoming stronger. And for all you anime enjoyers out there, this mod pack might just be for you, because this mod pack really reminds me of solo leveling. I mean, you just literally go through dungeons and level up and stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool. And by going through the battle towers, I unlocked heart crystal shards, which could be used to make a heart container and increase my health by 1 heart. Being able to steal the loot from these battle towers with a hopper was just, it was just so game-changing. Not having to fight the big bad guy at the top. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was just literally free. It was literally freelo. The great thing about RLCraft is that the more you explore, the more you find, and henceforth, the more progress you make. As I was out exploring, I was finding the Silex, cooking them down, and turning them into avian treats, which I would use on a rock. But getting the avian treats was only one of many challenges, because now I had to focus on enchanting. And as you guys know, RLCraft adds Rin's many enchantments, which basically adds an entire list of overpowered enchantments. Getting some of these enchantments is extremely difficult, and I would have to go to extensive lengths just to get them. I knew at this point in the game there was no chance I was going to be able to get these enchantments, so I did what I could and I started out small. But with all of these objectives in mind, I stayed focused and I controlled what I could. I started by expanding the base, because let's face it, I don't know how to not pick things up. Only a guy named Zombie Guy is fitting to have an entire room to himself with like 16 beds. You're welcome.
Hi.
What the? Okay, we got Doom enemies now. Nice. Back at base, I crafted a bauble reforging station, which essentially allows you to put a secondary quality on all of your baubles. At this point, I also knew that it was time to upgrade my bow, especially if I was going to be looking to killing dragons soon. I also added Sharpness 3 and Education 3 to my Diamond Saber, as it would add increased damage and also give me more experience when killing enemies. While I was out and about, I ended up coming across a Cyclops den. The Cyclops is pretty formidable because he can pick you up and basically one-shot you. He has the ability to basically just chomp down on your head, and then you will instantly die no matter what you have on. So, what did I do? I took it upon myself to challenge him and try to take over his den. You see, the Cyclops might be strong, but he's not very smart, because he didn't really seem to want to come into the water to chase me, so I just shot him in the eyeball, and he pretty much just went blind, and from there it was pretty easy to kill him. Can I be honest? I've never felt so bad for killing something that would so quickly jump to kill me at the first chance it got. Because when I went inside of his den, all he really had were golden nuggets and a bunch of pet sheep. Who's gonna take care of these sheep now that I killed him? Who's gonna be here to take care of the sheep and feed them to grow into big, strong sheep to later only be eaten by the Cyclops? While I was exploring my surroundings, I found a beach sea serpent, which is basically like the dragons of the sea. If you kill them, you could take their scales and turn it into a really strong armor. So I decided, you know what? Maybe I should probably take this guy out. He's already kind of stuck anyways, so I'd probably be doing him a favor. This right here was my first step towards greatness. Not because I ended up using its scales for armor, but because it gave me the confidence I needed to know that these creatures were killable. The problem is, though, is that RLCraft likes to lure you into a false sense of security. When you feel like you're finally strong, it does something like this. So that creature was called an Argus, or a Chaos Elemental, and they pretty much spawn when you kill too many Lycanites mobs. What's a Lycanites mob? It's this thing right here that spawned as soon as I tried to get some iron. If you kill too many of these things, it'll spawn the Argus, or, you know, multiple of them. So yeah, that's fun. I also got to experience the Halloween event, which drops these fun little pumpkins that you can open up and get gifts.
Are you serious, my brother?
No, you don't even get that. And I want to find the sick, twisted individual who thought this was going to be a funny idea. I mean, who do you think you are? You better hope I never find you, because if I do, I'm going to give you a treat myself. But all of these near-death experiences taught me that I needed to have an ace up my sleeve. I needed a way to get out of trouble and fast. And as it turns out, there's just the thing to do exactly that. It's called a warp scroll, and it essentially allows you to teleport right back to your spawn point without any repercussions. You could use it to make recall potions. With these warp scrolls, I could essentially escape death, which is super handy in a mod pack like this. I also found and killed my first boss. When you kill these guys, they drop some really good enchanting books, which you guys will definitely see more of later on in the endgame dungeons. I also decided it was time to stop being a big giant farty sissy baby, so I decided to go down into the caves. Why are the caves so bad? Well, I'll tell you. The caves are basically riddled with enemies, and anything you try to mine has a chance to kill you. It's pretty much advised by like almost anybody I've seen play this mod pack to stay out of caves. Unless, of course, you need cave troll leather. And I needed this stuff because, well, it was used to make a saddle, and this saddle would allow me to fly on a rock. Now you're starting to see why I have to go down into this hellhole. As well, there was a Doom-like dungeon, which means free experience and a ton of things to kill. Of course, I got distracted and decided it was time to start farming XP right away instead of obtaining flight, and this happened. Oh, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead. I gotta get out of here. Oh my god. No, 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 no. This is not good. This is not good. Dude, there's so many zombies. Oh my god, they all just one-tap me. Oh my god, they're all one-tapping me. Oh, if it weren't for my armor, I'd be so screwed right now, dude. Get me out of here. When you're in the caves for long enough, you will eventually find a cave troll. And when you kill them, they'll end up dropping their hide, potentially their weapon, and some tusks. And when I killed this guy, he not only dropped his weapon, but he ended up dropping all 3 of his parts, and his weapon ended up being legendary quality. So that's pretty cool. And I guess I was having a psychotic episode because I thought, oh, I could take all of these creatures on at once. Yeah. What about now? And you know what? I gotta say, I ended up going back, but only because the XP here was awesome. I mean, there were so many special variant mobs, so much loot, and there was so much experience to be gained from this. By taking these guys out, I was leveling up rapidly, and it was awesome. It was a great way to get some levels. And it was all going so well until the worst thing spawned. Yeah, have you ever seen a man run for his life? Well, here's what it looks like. And I was getting really arrogant. Each time I ran into the dungeon, I decided that I would try and take out a few spawners. If it weren't for these potions, I wouldn't even think of doing this. But one little miscalculation, one misstep, and you could die, even with the recall potions. And at this stage of the game, I was so desperate to succeed. I wanted to level up so bad. I would have jumped into a crowd of zombies on fire, blight zombies, you name it, just to level up. But you see, that's what these mod packs are all about. Taking that extra step forward. The extra risk, because more often than not, taking the extra risk pays off. I mean, look at this. I was a happy man. I found a magic mirror. I had ended up finding one of the best baubles out there, the Broken Heart. It was essentially a second wind. So if your health reaches 0, instead of dying, the container would simply break until you take a rest. I was a very, very happy man. I found another insane bauble called the Cobalt Shield. And yes, it grants immunity to knockback, which is super important when you're getting juggled around by a crowd of mobs. It's also used for one of the endgame baubles, which you guys will eventually see. And yes, I am aware of the Terraria references. That's probably what made me love this mod pack that much more. And at this point, we were starting to finally get strong. The sea serpents were no longer really an issue. They kind of just get themselves beached, and then they're easy to kill. I'm surprised they haven't gone extinct sooner. And the loot was just pouring in. And then I got to see the Halloween event. And here's what happened.
It's always a trick, and never a treat.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Oh, wait, what? What is hitting me? Clowns. Yeah, real funny. Clowns. They sent clowns after me. You ever seen a clown chase you to the bottom of the sea and try to kill you? Yeah, well, yeah, this is a sick joke. Sick, I tell you. I was a very scared man. I went back to base faster than I ever have. And then look at this guy. And look at this guy. What is that? Can we... What were we thinking when we released this into the mod pack? What were we thinking as we were designing this thing? Let's just make a floating pair of eyeballs. Look at me, I was a very scared man. I ran. In better news, I did find more cave trolls, which is great because I really needed to be able to fly, like soon. So I decided to kill them and take their goods. And this mod pack just keeps getting crazier, because not only are there cyclops, dragons, trolls, but there are sirens as well. And check this out. When I was exploring the desert, I found a dead dragon. I didn't even have to lay a finger on him. Man's already died from the extreme heat, I guess. But from him, I got 3 dragon bones and a dragon skull, which is awesome because these can be turned into various tools and weapons. After that amazing find, I went home and I crafted something called a soul stone. When you use it on a tamed rock, it makes it to where the rock will never actually die. So if I were flying through the air and something killed my rock, I could just respawn it with a little bit of a cooldown. The soul stone essentially was able to bind any tamed creatures to you, allowing them to live permanently. I then grabbed the cave troll leather and the cave troll tusks, along with 2 Stymphalian feathers and a saddle to craft the avian saddle. I then proceeded to make diamond pet armor, as it could be put on the rock, allowing for better protection.
Hey there, it's The Rock. Thanks for getting me geared up for the battle. I appreciate you, and I love you.
And the time finally came for me to tame The Rock. Taming this guy would allow me the ability to fly. All I had to do was feed him these avian treats, use the soul stone, put on the saddle and the armor, and we were ready to take the skies. This was going to be a game changer. I took this newfound ability of flight and I went straight to the battle towers because there was somebody who I needed to hash things out with. I didn't even have to kill this man's. I just wanted to, because I felt like it, because I knew that I could now. That's why I don't feel bad, because this man's would have shot fireballs at me if I was on the ground. And plus, watching his tower explode into shambles made it all the more worth it. But you know what? Our journey from being the strongest RL Craftian was far from over, because I wanted to kill something that was far stronger. I wanted to kill a dragon. Although I did have sea serpent armor, I was going to make the ultimate set of dragon armor. And then eventually, I would progress to another tier of armor, which is even stronger. And you won't even believe what armor set that is. And I'm not going to tell you until we get to that point in the game, because I believe in keeping some of the mystery. But for now, all you need to know is that I'm going to kill a dragon. That was the only thing I had in mind. And I had happened to get some of the luckiest possible enchants on this crossbow with only 30 levels of experience. And I got extremely lucky because I not only did it once, but I did it again, back to back. I took these 2 crossbows straight to the anvil and I combined them to make the ultimate dragon slaying weapon. Something that could shoot far, reload rapidly, pierce, and do extra damage. I immediately took to the skies and I found a nearby dragon and started taking fire in its direction. I was terrified and I kept on retreating, but at the same time, I would push forward a little bit inch by inch and use the zoom in feature on my keyboard to basically snipe it from afar. Through this technique, I was able to damage the dragon without it noticing my presence, which also means it wouldn't become aggro to my position. This allowed me to shoot it from afar and not receive any of its fire attacks. This was the perfect strategy and I utilized this on not just one, but but many dragons. But this dragon in particular was special because this was my very first dragon kill. If you use an empty bottle on a recently alive fire dragon, you can also capture its fire dragon blood, and this stuff is used to make arguably the best weapon in the game. You can also get a fire dragon heart and bones, but usually if you take the blood, it won't really give you very many of the other parts, and the same thing will happen vice versa. But I was lucky enough to get a little bit of everything, although I will say this is definitely not going to be enough. But not to worry, I had a lot of vengeance on my mind, and I decided to go out and go on a little bit of a
Killing spree.
Do you remember when water used to be a problem in RLCraft? Well, check this out. If you make an empty iron canteen and combine it with a fire dragon heart and a skull, you can make a canteen that pretty much automatically purifies any source of water that you drink from. And you can carry a ton of these things. I also crafted the Sin Pendant, which gives you a buff when you have full health. It gives you extra armor and health, and I got lucky and ended up getting the Undying quality off rip. I went back to dragon slaying because I was going to need so many scales, and in the process I killed a stage 4 fire dragon, and this guy dropped a dragon egg. This thing doesn't seem very important right now, but I promise you, it's awesome. It has a lot of uses, and you guys will see. At this point, I had killed so many fire dragons. I was a very rich man. Emphasis on was. And of course, I ended up getting all of them masterful except for my pants. My pants, man. But the RNG gods, they came in clutch, man. They really did come through. They always come through in the end. And from this moment on, RLCraft got a lot easier. I was one step closer to being unstoppable.
Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
I decided to enchant this thing at the enchanting table knowing very well that I could get something bad, but I ended up getting Unbreaking 3 and Atomic Deconstructor 2. What does Atomic Deconstructor 2 do exactly? It gives you a small % chance to instantly kill any mobs. This is super useful because this kind of weapon has a very high DPS, and it can be improved with Rin's many enchantments. So essentially every single hit with this very high DPS weapon has a chance to instantly kill any enemy. I also added Feather Falling 4 to my Dragon Scale boots, and Aqua Affinity and Respiration 3 to my Dragon Scale helmet. You know what's crazy though is even though I had all of these Dragon Scales and I was farming all of these dragons, I was not even mid-game yet. I had to do so much testing, so much farming for experience and materials. It just felt like it was never going to end. And it was at this point in the game that it was time to start getting the correct enchantments, which means I needed to hunt villagers, specifically librarians. But one of the villagers I found ended up having one of the enchantments I needed, and I already had one advanced mending book. I combined the two together and put them on my god weapon. This thing is not near as strong as it can be, but I still wanted to take my weapon on a test run. And man, I was so happy. Here's how it went. So yeah, the nunchucks are insane, as you guys now see. Back at the base, I crafted an item called the Enchanted Medkit. If you put a mending book on this thing, it essentially becomes an infinite medkit, allowing you to use it an infinite amount of times, and as long as you gain experience, it'll just simply regenerate. This thing is broken, because it also gives you absorption hearts on top of it. And since there's 2 level up menus inside of this mod pack, I decided to check out some of the skills in the other skill tree to see what kind of perks I could get access to. And as it turns out, there's a combat tree, and one of these perks allows you to take 5% damage reduction per level. So I decided to start investing some of my hard-earned XP into these as well. At this point in the game, there was an abundance of loot, but not of XP. So I had to start doing some of the bigger dungeons, that way I could get more experience and henceforth level up and enchant more. I ended up finding one of the biggest dungeons in RLCraft, and this place has a ton of insane enchanting books inside of it if you can get to the top. The only problem is that it's guarded by very, very tough enemies, like enemies with diamond armor. Yeah, so I did my best to try to take out as many as I could. At the very top, there's an end crystal, and this end crystal protects the place, making it to where I can't break the spawners. So the only way for me to take out the spawners is to destroy the crystal at the top, or kill enough enemies from the said spawner for the spawner to get destroyed. So I had one goal in mind. I had to get to the top, no matter the cost. But that was way easier said than done, because even with my current gear, I was quickly overwhelmed and having to teleport back to my base. But wait, hold on. Let's rewind because there's a detail that I need you guys to try and remember for later in this video. Do you see what this witch does? She throws a potion which causes a lightning bolt to strike down and light the surroundings on fire. Remember this for later. I found this dungeon called a Mega Battle Tower. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's basically a battle tower, but with like 4 towers, way more mobs, and a lot more loot. And I decided I was going to try this thing and see how far I could get. Yes, there is a golem at the top, and yes, he usually is a lot stronger than the regular battle towers. But this also means that there's going to be way more XP here. This place is definitely way up there in the difficulty scale. Other than the Nether dungeons, this place is a literal nightmare. I mean, I was literally getting quick peeked by witches. Look at this. Like, what are we doing? But despite that, I was determined to take this place down and destroy the golem at the top. I wanted to 100% clear this place, even if it took me all day. I did not care. I wasn't ready for it. I was able to accept that fact, and I retreated. But it wasn't in vain, because I went back to base and immediately began enchanting a new set of armor. Something that would be stronger than the Umbrium armor. Something that would make me a little bit stronger. This was not going to be my god set by any means, but it was certainly going to be stronger than Umbrium. So much so that I decided to go and fight the Wither. After my victory, I kind of just wanted to see like what it would be like in the Nether, and I kind of think that was the worst idea I've ever had. I mean, this place is it's if you thought RLCraft was bad, this place is just a whole nother level of bad. But of course, despite that, I decided to go in, and here's what happened. Yeah, so in case you weren't keeping track, I was in there for 35 seconds, and I nearly died in the span of 35 seconds. I knew I needed to become powerful. I needed more power. So more power I sought. And let me tell you, I decided that I would use 1 speed ring and 1 strength ring, which later I would trade for 2 strength rings. This combined with the dragon armor made me even more formidable. I went back to the mega battle tower, and at the very top floor, I peeked around the corner to see what kind of golem I was dealing with. Usually these battle towers have stronger golems, so taking them head on is not a very wise idea, especially when they have a sword and shield. But I had a plan for this man's. Don't you worry, I had a plan. Phase 1 of the plan was to upgrade mining a lot. At least enough to be able to use a diamond pickaxe. And the second phase of this plan was to unlock a perk called Obsidian Smasher, which can also be found inside of the mining perk tree. This does exactly what it says, and it lets you just basically melt through obsidian. And the third phase of this plan was to make a slight educated guess as to where the chest was going to be. Except there wasn't just 1 or 2 of them, there was 4 of them. And these chests usually have better loot than the regular battle towers. I judged the position of the chest based off of the particles of the golem, and I started digging through the obsidian to find the chest so that I could open it from under him without getting caught. Again, I would use the hopper strategy in order to siphon the loot out while also using a lockpick. When I went back up the stairs to check on the golem, he had changed abilities and become a blight. At this point, I was very tempted to wanting to kill him, mainly because he would drop a lot of experience. But first, I would steal his loot. So I got to work. I placed a hopper right under the chest and used my lockpick to secretly lockpick it from right beneath him. I would go and do this multiple times until all the loot was gone, and then I decided to fly to the very top of the battle tower. At the very top, I would wipe out all of the spawners, kill all of the enemies, and break a small hole at the very top where I could shoot down and hit the battle tower golem without him hitting me back. At first, this plan was a bit of a fail. He was able to shoot me through the floor somehow with his explosive bombs. Sure, this was disappointing, but I did not give up. I decided that I would tank through the explosions to take him on. This would be a lot better than taking him head on, and as long as I can keep on picking off shots on him, his explosives don't do enough damage to actually hurt me, and even if they did, I could just use a medkit to heal. This was a little bit of a risky strategy, but you know what? It worked.
You thought it was over.
RLCraft, you are an evil mistress for that one. Back at base, I celebrated my victory by crafting one of the best baubles in the game. It's called the Poison Stone, and it has a 20% chance to poison enemies, and any enemy that is poisoned will take 40% plus more damage. This bauble, combined with the Viper and Envenomed enchantments, becomes insanely overpowered, and this would significantly increase my damage output. Then I took Parry and Vampirism 2, combined it with Swifter Slashes 4 and Subject Anguish 3, and put it all on the same book. I was going to put this on my god weapon. Earlier in this video, I said I would show you guys how to combat the cold. Even if you're underground during the wintertime, you can still freeze to death pretty easily. So to combat this cold, you have to make something called heating and cooling goo. And with this heating and cooling goo, you can make heating and cooling liner. With the heating and cooling liner, you can make chest plate and pants liner. And if you combine the two together in a crafting table, it creates the Aussie liner. This is only applicable to the chest piece and the pants, but if you make the respective Aussie liners and you combine them with your armor on a crafting table, you basically become way more immune to the cold and the heat. You're almost guaranteed to die from the cold if you don't have these on your armor at some point, and it's important to make these because if you don't, it's almost impossible to explore during the wintertime. Do you guys remember when I rewinded the video and told you to remember a key detail at the Mega Library dungeon? Well, here's the result of what happened after that lightning strike. You see, the witches are capable of throwing a potion which causes a lightning bolt to strike the ground. This lightning bolt struck the blocks and lit everything on fire around it, which also means that they are destroying their very own fortress by their own means, allowing me to break inside and take all the loot without having to go all the way through legitimately. With this fire spawning in, cinders began spawning, and this whole place was on fire in the matter of seconds. Because I'm unable to break the blocks without destroying the end crystal, this was actually a very good thing for me. This dungeon was burning to the ground, and it wasn't even my fault, but I didn't care. I was going to take full advantage of this. The closer I could get to that end crystal and destroy it, the sooner I could break spawners and start looting. I looked for my closest opportunity to break in, and here are some of my favorite moments from this dungeon. Back at the base, I added Unbreaking 3 and Mending to my Dragon Scale pants, and even though I ended up with a lot more books because of that dungeon, I needed something more rare. But in the meantime, I would go exploring, and while I was out and about, I accidentally stumbled across a level 5 dragon den. But this dragon was already dead. With this stage 5 skull, I could craft one of the best baubles in the game, and it was practically handed to me on a platter. I searched far and wide to try and find the entrance to this dragon den. I had to see how this dragon died. I stumbled upon the cave entrance, which of course led me down a flight of steps, and this cave is exactly where the dragon had lived. Its den was absolutely massive, and almost everywhere you looked, there were ores waiting to be mined. This was excellent news, and plenty of resources for me, but I was still wondering how the dragon died. To me, it was an absolute mystery, because a stage 5 dragon shouldn't die naturally, and the fact that its skull was simply laying on the ground was that much more confusing to me. I ended up doing some research online, and I came across an article on Reddit. There's a person that states you can find dragon skulls in the desert, which I've seen previously, but I don't think that this was the case in my situation. I believe that the tier 5 dragon skull that I stumbled upon was a completely natural instance of the stage 5 dragon being killed by something. I don't know what was strong enough to do it, I just know that something probably killed it, and henceforth, I came along and stole the stage 5 dragon skull. But since I had found the dragon skull, I decided to take full advantage, and I teleported back to base. I used this dragon skull to craft the fire dragon's eye, which would give me night vision permanently, and it would also give me a permanent immunity to fire and lava, which would end up being the most useful buff probably in this entire mod pack. I also took the time to do some reforging, and I ended up reforging it to the angry buff, which increases the attack damage by 6%, and I also ended up getting the armored buff, which would help me increase my survivability. Later on down the road, I would want to change this to violent when I get the chance to increase attack speed, but for now, attack damage was definitely something I would be willing to settle for. I then proceeded to fly around the map, looking for a bigger challenge. I spotted a purple structure in the distance, and I decided to fly closer to check it out. As I went inside, I realized that this was no ordinary structure. This was in fact a Lycanite's dungeon, which is arguably one of the harder dungeons in the mod pack. Because it is difficult, that also means that there's going to be good XP and loot here. I had to be careful because since this was a Lycanite's dungeon, that means that there would be Lycanite's mobs here. The Lycanite's mobs don't play around. Even at my current strength, this dungeon was still a little overwhelming for me, and I was quickly swarmed by Lycanite's mobs and forced to retreat. This, of course, did not stop me from coming back and trying again. After all, I had the old reliable strategy of teleporting to safety if need be. But for now, this is exactly how my first Lycanite's dungeon experience went. Oh my god, this is a Ratatouille boss. Dude, this is a rat boss. I'm gonna shoot him in the... Oh my god, I'm gonna cheese my first boss. No way. Okay, that was kind of the easiest boss ever. thing that's really awesome about these Lycanites dungeons is that when you kill the bosses inside, they drop these things called soul stones. These soul stones will give you a randomly generated pet, and you can summon and dismiss this pet at will. Some of these pets are also rideable, and as long as you have the proper saddle, you can ride them into battle. The first pet that I ever received was this weird tiger/T-Rex hybrid. I mean, I don't know, just look at him. He just looks like a freaking murderer. I then decided that it was time to embark on one of the most tedious journeys of my life: breeding and taming bookworms. Well, not necessarily taming, but breeding, yes. Lots of breeding. Essentially, I had to craft this foul candy, and when you feed 2 bookworms the foul candy, they will reproduce, and they will produce a baby bookworm. Now you might be asking, why would you need to be breeding bookworms? Well, you see, bookworms are valuable because they have a very small percentage chance to produce something called a golden bookworm. The golden bookworm is a rare variant of the bookworm, and they have a 1% chance from normal breeding or natural spawning, and a 4% chance when one golden bookworm breeds with a regular one. Alternatively, there's also a 10% chance when 2 golden bookworms breed for another golden bookworm to be born. Now you might be wondering, what good is a bookworm exactly? You can give these bookworms enchanted books, and they will spit out random enchantments, which is also affected by the enchanting level. And as well, if you kill a golden bookworm, it'll drop golden bookworm scales, and you can use their scales to craft something called a disenchantment table. A disenchantment table allows you to take the first enchantment off of a book or item and stuff it into another book. So now you can kind of see why this is a super important process for me to follow through, especially considering how important enchantments are in this mod pack. The defiled biome also had an abandoned structure, and when I went inside of this structure, I found 2 chests, each of which contained crafting runes. These crafting runes can be put inside of a rune reader and decrypted into valuable crafting recipes like golem armor. So this was a pretty incredible find. And thanks to the variety of dungeons that were laying around the map, it was super easy to come across these mega battle towers and raid them and take all of their items inside. Gathering all of these resources and items allowed me to progress further into the mod pack, and I found myself leveling up way faster when doing the mega battle towers. Killing the golem at the top was now a cakewalk thanks to the gear I had, and even if it was too dangerous for me to go in and try and kill the golem because of his rarity, I could simply just steal all of the items out of the chest using the hopper method. Either way, loot was not rare by any means, and there was an abundance of it ready to be taken. Back at the base, I made it my mission to expand my library. I added more bookshelves, and even took the time to gain some valuable enchantments like Envenom 2 and Vampirism 2, which I would end up using later. It was about that time in the game where I focused a little more on enchantments, and that's why I was trying to also breed the bookworms. It should be stated that enchantments are super important in RLCraft, and if you want to make any progress at all in getting stronger, you do have to end up eventually focusing on trying to get proper enchantments for all of your gear. It can be a pretty incredibly tedious process, but in the end, it is super worth it, especially if you use something called an enchant reroller, which I will go more into detail later in this video. Also, what in the actual f*** is going on here? Anyways, I grabbed a diamond sword that had looting on it, and my objective was to get at least 2 golden bookworm scales. Almost off rip on my first kill, I got 6, and this means I could finally make a disenchanting table. I started off by taking the golden bookworm scales and combining it with 3 emeralds and an enchanting table, and there we have it, the disenchantment table. I then proceeded to grab as many enchantment books and enchanted items that I had stored in my chests, and took them to the disenchantment table to add them into their own individual books, which I would store for future enchantments. Just like that, we were one step closer from making our god set of armor. I then went back to the mega library dungeon and thoroughly combed through the entire dungeon as to get as many enchantment books as possible. I ended up getting out with the motherlode, and I would also store these enchantments for later. I then decided I wasn't doing enough to get the best enchantments possible, and so I had to readapt my strategy. I started by crafting a polarized stone, which is a bauble that allows you to completely repel arrows, along with dragging all nearby items on the ground towards the player. This would come in handy because I ended up making a massive sugarcane farm, and when activating the polarized stone, you can pull every single piece of sugarcane towards yourself, which makes it a lot easier to collect and farm the sugarcane. I ended up making this process way more complicated than it needed to be, because I tried farming paper in order to trade for emeralds and then trade for books, when in reality I should have just been using a villager reroller. But in the time, I didn't exactly exactly know about this strategy, and so I just farmed paper. Although I will say I got incredibly lucky. I mean, like, incredibly. Because even though I was kind of approaching the strategy a little wrong and trying to trade paper in order to level up the villagers' trades, it ended up working out for me. Because when I got to the final tier of this specific librarian's trades, he had the one and the only Supreme Sharpness 5 enchantment, which is a legendary enchantment, probably one of the most rare and valuable in the entire mod pack. The reason why is because it makes your weapons do so much damage and is the strongest form of sharpness in the entire game. This, combined with the high DPS on my nunchucks, would make me an unstoppable force. Realizing how valuable this villager was, I immediately bought 2 Supreme Sharpness 5 books and picked him up with my rock to take him far away from my base. The reason being because if I keep this valuable villager inside of my village, he will most likely be killed by one of the naturally spawning events or killed by a zombie. So I decided to take him far away and create a glass container for him to live inside of. I lured him in with an emerald block, placed a bed and some torches, and now he had a place to live. I labeled this place Supreme Sharpness 5 so I wouldn't lose it on my map, and I would keep him here for the foreseeable future in case I ever needed more of his books. By keeping him locked up outside of the village, he can be safe because he is outside of render distance and therefore will be unaffected by the naturally occurring events in RLCraft. And for the sake of this video not being 10 hours long, I did end up finding another villager who had 2 endgame enchantments. He ended up having Supreme Fire Aspect 2, and he also had Advanced Mending. Truth be told, I could keep in all of the footage of me searching around the map trying to find the perfect villagers with the perfect enchantments, but this video would literally be the longest video ever. So for the sake of this video actually being watchable, I'm cutting it down significantly to reduce the amount of time that you guys have to watch me simply flying around looking for villagers. After endless hours of searching for the perfect villager, I ended up finding another villager which I would stuff inside of the glass box, and just like that, I had 3 endgame enchantments. With these powerful enchantments, I started combining some of my strongest enchants onto secondary books. That way, when I put them on my nunchucks, it would cost less XP because I would be running the nunchucks through the anvil fewer times. I started by combining all of my strongest books together, and I would eventually and finally put them on my nunchucks, which would make them significantly stronger. I ended up adding Curse of Possession for the sake of not losing it by some of the mobs which have sticky. If you hit a mob with the sticky effect, your weapon will fall on the ground. As well, I added Penetration 5, Subject English 3 for experience, and I also added Supreme Sharpness 5 for the massive damage boost. Finally, I would add Supreme Fire Aspect 2, and just like that, my nunchucks were that much stronger. I also decided that it was time to start taking advantage of Advanced Mending, and so my plan was to go to a dungeon and get some more experience so I can enchant my items. Before long, I found a villager that had Advanced Protection 3. This was super useful because if you combine 2 of these books together, you can create Advanced Protection 4. What does this mean for me? This means that I could get the best version of Advanced Protection. With all of the XP I just farmed, I was able to make my first god set of armor, but not my final. I had Advanced Prot 4 for everything except for the pants, and every other useful enchantment that would help protect me from physical damage. If you have Advanced Protection 4 on all of your armor pieces, you will have an 80% damage reduction in totality, which is pretty freaking insane. In order for this to be a true set of god armor, I would need Strength and Vitality 5 and Inner Berserk 4. Strength and Vitality 5 gives you extra health, and Inner Berserk gives you extra damage output the lower your health gets. But right now, I was pretty satisfied with having Advanced Prot 4 on almost all of my armor pieces, as this would significantly increase my lifespan. At this point in the game, I felt like I could almost go into any dungeon and decimate everything in sight. There are a couple exceptions, obviously, but most dungeons I was going into, I was able to take care of every problem I came across, which means now there weren't very many true threats. But you guys will see later that I am very wrong. Let's take a moment to observe something. As you can see on the left side of my screen, I am still affected by negative effects. This is exactly what the problem is. Although I may have Advanced Protection 4 and I may have that 80% damage reduction, this will not protect me against effects. This is the main problem of having Dragon and Golem armor. These armors in particular do not protect you from negative effects. But you know what armor set does? Silver armor. I know, it sounds crazy, especially considering that silver armor itself is not very protective, but one of its main strengths comes from its ability to negate all negative effects, including fear, and this will be more explained later in the video. For now, take this into consideration for when I make my final set of god armor. But until then, it was time to focus on the base a little more. I started by expanding it outwards, and I decided to create a wine cellar. Do you remember when I said that grapes were going to be an endgame kind of item? Well, now is the time where I can start utilizing grapes to turn it into wine. I'm not going to fully explain wine just yet, but just know that wine is going to be something that is going to help me drastically. For now, it was time for me to test myself in my new gear. I had to see if I could take a dragon head on. Well, that was kind of anticlimactic. I then went back to base and combined Venom 3 with Parry, Adept 3 with Luck Magnification 2. I then combined Swifter Slashes 4 with Fiery Edge 2 and Arc Slash 3 to the previous enchantments, and combined them all into one book, which I would put on my god weapon. But first, I was going to need 75 levels of experience, and that was going to take some time. Oh my goodness, guys, look at what I just found. These are stonelings, and they are pretty rare. If you kill them, they have a chance to drop a Heart of Diamond, and you can use that to make resistance rings. We have to kind of get lucky, but if he drops this, we're gonna be so OP. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh my goodness, we got it. Oh my goodness, we got it. We got it, we got one. Oh my god, we got one. Oh my god, there are so many things. Stonelings will only spawn in the overworld at Y20 with a light level of 5 or lower. This makes Lycanite dungeons a perfect place for stonelings to spawn, and I ended up finding another Heart of Diamond and making 2 resistance rings. And for the moment of truth, I finally had enough experience to upgrade my nunchucks to their max potential. At this point in the game, my weapon was no longer going to be the focus. And even though this means that my damage potential would technically be at its max, it actually gets higher than begin this later in the video. At this point, I was the strongest creature other than some surprise enemies later in the video and the main bosses. So, what exactly am I supposed to do now? Well, at this point in the game, it's about time that I focus on making my god set of armor, and of course this is going to require me to get a ton more experience. But before I go on that journey, I decided to craft something called a rune reader, and this would allow me to decrypt all of the runes I currently have and craft golem armor. I know that I stated earlier in this video I would be using silver armor, but I still wanted to have the golem pieces just to flex. I took the newly crafted rune reader and upgraded it to an advanced rune reader, and upon putting in one of the crafting runes, it instantly decrypted it and showed me a crafting recipe for golem boots. The golem armor will be very important for me when I die, or if I die in the Lost Cities. I'll go more into detail about the Lost Cities a little bit later in the video when it's a little bit more relevant, but all you guys need to know is that I will be using silver armor, and if that fails, I will still need a backup set of golem armor just in case. I decrypted another crafting rune that I had stored away, and wouldn't you guess it, it was a golem chest plate. This was awesome because this meant that I already had 2 pieces of the golem armor. I decided for my first piece, I would make the golem chest piece. I grabbed all the materials that I would need for the golem chest plate and took it into the other room to put it on an armor stand, and don't ask about what happened to Zombie Guy. Let's just say that he didn't make it. But we are now at the point where I should probably begin explaining wine. Here's the crafting interface for wine, and as you can see, there are a lot of places to put things. You see, wine is made by crushing grapes or wild berries into a crushing tub, taking the juice, and then putting it either inside of a barrel or putting it inside of a brewing barrel. The purity of your wine is very important as it increases or decreases the effect duration of whatever the wine does. Wild berry wine will increase the power of effects, whereas grape wine will increase the duration of effects. For example, if I give myself the strength buff and I drink wild berry wine, I will now have strength 2. Another example is if I were to have just normal strength 1 and I were to drink grape wine, it would increase the duration of that buff instead of increasing the power of it. Now you guys can see why wine is extremely broken, because it essentially takes all of your beneficial effects and increases their power and duration exponentially. The best quality wine that you can possibly get is 1.0 or 1, and to get to this wine, I have to make a bunch of test batches, and then as the batches improve, I can use the new and improved batches, put in a new source of grape wine, and as I insert a new bottle of grape wine, it will brew with the new and improved batch, and essentially we would repeat this process until we get the best batch possible, which would be 1.0. So to quickly summarize the brewing barrels, all you have to do is take grape juice, put it inside of the barrel, and it will brew and ferment into wine. You can then harvest the wine and use it for consumption, or you can use it to upgrade the quality of your wine. My objective is to try and upgrade the quality of my wine to 1.0, that way I can get the best possible effects and bang for my buck for all of my wine. We would have to do this process with grape juice and wild berry juice, but eventually we would become super overpowered because we would have the best possible wine.
And now that you guys have a basic understanding of how to brew wine, it was time to farm some experience so that I could make something overpowered. And so after a few hours of experience grinding, I combined 2 Strafe 1 books to make a Strafe 2 book, and then upgraded it further, turning it into a Strafe 3 book. I then added this book onto what would be my first god bow, and then I decided to add Advanced Power 4 and Supreme Flame onto the same book, but then I later decided to add Advanced Power 3 and Advanced Mending onto the same book, which I would then combine with my god bow. I then added the book on from earlier, which had Advanced Power 4, Multi-Shot 3, Upgraded Potentials, Supreme Flame, Unbreaking 3, and Curse of Possession. Adding all of these onto the same bow would make me pretty much near unstoppable from range. And after even more XP grinding, I decided to upgrade my archery inside of the level up menu, which would allow me to basically shoot faster. And this doesn't even take into account that I added Arrow Recovery 3 and Rapid Fire 2 onto my bow, which basically makes it shoot way faster and gives me a way higher chance of recovering every arrow I shoot. So yeah, this is kind of the result of that. I could literally create a wall of fire by simply pulling back a string. And if you thought that wasn't enough, I even decided to make a dragon bone pickaxe, and I even used an ancient tome to give it Fortune 4. This thing would literally annihilate blocks so fast that I would never have to deal with stingy spawners ever again. And now it was time to try all of my new weaponry on a stage 5 dragon.
And it was at this very moment that I realized something. My nunchucks were actually not strong enough. As a matter of fact, earlier in this video I said that I wouldn't really be focusing much on the nunchucks any longer, and I'm here to tell you now that I lied. Because I would make another pair of nunchucks that were so powerful that it would almost instantaneously wipe out the final boss of this game, and you guys will have to stick around to the end of the video to witness it. And as for my bow, well, the bow was doing just fine and was also very overpowered, but don't you worry because I end up making another bow at the end of this video, which ends up being slightly stronger than this one, albeit they're kind of about the same, to be honest. But as you guys can see, this bow allowed me to practically rapid fire gunshots straight into this boss, annihilating his health bar. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we tamed a Marok, but even better yet, we found the Stone of Greater Inertia. Here I was casually going through a Nether Battle Tower dungeon, and I ended up killing an infernal mob, which dropped one of the best baubles in the entire game. This thing is so incredibly rare. To put it into perspective, infernal mobs have a 1 in 1,000 chance to spawn instead of a normal mob, and is considered to be one of the most rare and elusive baubles in the game. The odds of it dropping are 1 in 58 from the highest tier of Infernal Mob's item pool. And when this thing is equipped, it gives the player vastly increased movement speed and jump height, and also gives 50% knockback resistance, and finally 75% fall damage resistance. Not only will I have increased mobility, but this thing will come in huge clutch later on for the final boss against the Amalgalich. When you eat cooked joust meat in RLCraft, you gain speed 3, and I decided to test and see how fast I could run if I ate some of this meat and also used the Stone of Greater Inertia. And as you can see, I was literally running as fast as the Flash. If you put a magma cream inside of a brewing station, you can make 3 potions of fire resistance, and with these potions, you can craft the obsidian skull. All you need are 2 of the potions, 4 obsidian, 2 blaze powders, and a skeleton skull. If you combine this with the Ankh shield, you can make the obsidian Ankh shield. To combine the 2, you can't do it in a crafting table, you actually have to do it in an anvil. I also got tired of flying around all the time looking for villagers, so I just made a villager reroller. By holding an item that has Curse of Holding, you give yourself a bunch of negative effects, and it decreases your attack damage and speed. This is good because you can enchant a battle axe with purification, and if you hit a villager, you do not want to kill them. Instead, you want to turn them back into a villager. Essentially, I've trapped a zombie on the other side with a dragon flame battle axe, and he will one-shot this librarian every single time. This will result in the villager becoming a zombie, and all I have to do is wheel him out and smack him with the axe, and he'll essentially turn back into a villager. If you repeat this process, you can get infinite enchantments, and this is incredible
incredibly useful for late game. And even though having enchantments is very helpful, I still need a ton of experience. But luckily, these dungeons were starting to get a lot easier. And with enough experience grinding, I was finally able to use my villager reroller to get all the enchantments I needed for my silver armor god set. I was going to be using silver armor for my god set, and I had every single overpowered enchantment possible for this set of armor. There is a certain effect that I want to explain, however, and this effect is called Cure. The reason why Cure is extremely important is because when I go to the Lost Cities, which is a dimension that you can enter by surrounding a bed with skeleton skulls and placing the bed on top of Sinusite lanterns, you can go to this dimension and you will face off against the absolute worst parasites imaginable. And we're talking these things can literally one-shot your armor and kill you, at least if you don't have the correct buffs and wine. My objective was to abuse this Cure effect in order to stay safe from the negative effects that you can receive while inside of this dimension. The Lost Cities is an absolute nightmare of a dimension, and you guys will see later in this video that I have quite a few close encounters and close calls with the parasites. Luckily, with enough preparation, I can go into this dimension and find a certain item which will make me incredibly overpowered for the final boss fight, but all you need to know is that I need to completely avoid having the fear debuff, which causes you to basically not be able to swing your weapon or drink or eat or anything. So you basically just become a mannequin surrounded by parasites, and that's basically a death sentence. The other debuff, which the Cure effect will completely get rid of, is called Viral. Viral can stack up to a maximum level of 10, and with each level of Viral, the damage you take will increase by 100%. So at level 10, you would be taking 1100% damage. That's instant death. And the damage that I receive is completely dependent on how high the Viral debuff gets. Luckily, with silver armor, I can completely ignore those debuffs and go into the Lost Cities safely, or at least kind of safely, because the main risk that I run with silver armor is that it has naturally low durability. So if one of my pieces were to break, I am basically dead. However, before I go to this dimension, there's a couple of things that I want to achieve first and a couple of weapons that I have to improve. I started by building a nether base and by taking some respawn statues from the nether, and when you use a piece of glowstone on the statue, it allows you to respawn at the statue in case you die. Then I placed a waystone, allowing myself to essentially teleport back to base, or at least respawn right next to a waystone. I then headed to the nearest nether dungeon, and I ended up finding this dungeon called a Wither dungeon. And yeah, I mean, you could probably guess why, right? I mean, can you really blame me for running right here? Like, I mean, there's like probably 20 withers. I realized that in order to do this nether dungeon, I was going to need to do some wine buffing. Of course, without the Ankh Charm bauble, this is going to be kind of difficult because I would get nausea and inebriation. But luckily, if you consume something called a nether wort stew, it completely gets rid of those effects without having to use the Ankh Charm. So I was basically able to buff up, get super overpowered, and just eat a nether wort stew and be fine. I mostly needed to do these nether dungeons for some rare books and for some experience, and so without further ado, let the nether dungeon grind begin.
It wasn't very long before I was running into a new kind of problem. I was running out of room and storage, so I decided to increase my base and add a new base of operations where I would have maxed out furnaces, a ton of storage crates, and a room where I would eventually build the bed, which would take me to the Lost Cities. But for now, I needed a storage system that would allow me to keep all of my items in the same area for ease of access. The next step before the Lost Cities was to get the Shield of Honor, which is a bauble that I need to craft in order to survive, but of course, it requires me to go to the end and kill the Ender Dragon, but more specifically, I need to mine an ore from the end, and this ore is called biotite. Killing the Ender Dragon was definitely an accomplishment, but I was really going there to try to get some loot and also to get the biotite ore so that I could make the Shield of Honor. The Shield of Honor would give me an extra level of resistance and would also allow me to ignore some attacks, so it was super important that I go to the end to retrieve this ore. Immediately upon entering the end, I swapped over to my respawn statue and got it placed down right away. And then the Ender Dragon absolutely annihilated it. So, with my plan practically going to bust, I immediately just dug up to the surface and decided to just fight the Ender Dragon. Luckily, since I drank a potion of flight and buffed myself, I wasn't really worried about falling into the void. It was time to finally craft the Shield of Honor, so I made myself 4 glowing gems, grabbed 4 pieces of biotite, and put the dragon egg in the very middle to make the Shield of Honor. I then crafted something called a carpentry bench, which is actually really easy to make. When you make one, you can surround the outer edges with wooden blocks, and you will make something called a storage crate. These storage crates have significantly more space and make storing items way easier. It was now time to go back to the end and go to the End City. The End City has an incredible amount of loot, but what I really needed was a shulker heart. You see, the shulker heart would allow me to make something called the Ankh Shield, and with the silver armor and Ankh Shield combination, I would pretty much be immune to anything. The loot here is just kind of nuts. I feel like if you were looking for enchantment books or looking for rare resources like diamond blocks and silver and gold, this is the place that you'd want to go. And thanks to my nunchucks having luck magnitude 2, getting a shulker heart was really easy. And it was also really easy for me to farm shulker shells, but I literally got the shulker heart after killing just a couple of the shulkers. Eventually, I was flying around and I found this really interesting looking end dungeon, and this place had so much loot inside of it. The only dungeons that had more loot than this one were the ones in the Lost Cities. After returning from the end, I used a nether star, an ender dragon scale, and a cracked black dragon scale to repair the black dragon scale. You can then take it to an anvil and combine it with a bazaar. Then you combine the ring of overclocking with the shulker heart, and essentially to make the Ankh charm, you just have to combine every single debuff immunity bauble in the game into a crafting table with 4 gold ingots, and there you have the Ankh charm. Then by combining the obsidian shield with the Ankh charm inside of an anvil, you can make the Ankh shield, which is pretty much the best bauble in the game. I then spent a ton of experience getting every single bauble that I had to the violent quality, that way I had the maximum damage per second. I then realized that before I take on any of the final bosses, I wanted to take on some of the mini bosses of RLCraft. This would include a ton of Lycanite dungeons, and I would even get a tamed dragon in the process of this. This is a sweet looking mount, dude. I have to take this thing for a spin later. This thing is crazy. Look at how big he is. He fills the whole entire room. Having defeated some of the Nether Lycanite dungeon mini-bosses, I decided to craft some Demon Stone, and I decided that it was time to craft the Demonic Soul Cube, which is a core ingredient in summoning the first boss of RLCraft. It was also time to test out that new dragon mount. It was my objective to complete as many challenges as possible in RLCraft before fighting the final bosses. Of course, this meant taking out almost every boss in the Lycanite dungeons. It was my goal to complete every single challenge that this mod pack has to offer. In order to complete these challenges and properly kill the bosses, I was going to need to make another pair of God nunchucks. My current ones were not going to cut it, and by swapping out a few of the enchantments, I can do significantly more damage. Anything less from overpowered would not be good enough for the final bosses in the Lost Cities. I began my grind off camera in order to get enough experience and used the villager reroller to get the proper enchantments necessary, and of course I'm not going to include that in this video because then this video would literally be 5 hours long. So instead of including all of the XP grinding, I'll just include the parts where I defeat the main bosses, especially in the dungeons that I haven't completed yet. And I've got to say, I did not expect there to be a Lycanite boss that, well, threw poop at you while running away.
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. The grind to get to this point is finally over with. These are the best possible enchants that you can have on a pair of nunchucks. This should carry us through the Lost Cities and all of the bosses. Of course, we are going to need to craft the soul key in order to activate the boss altar, which luckily is not really hard to make. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to face our first boss. I am extremely nervous. I don't know how this is going to go. We should be at our max potential damage right now. I'm even using wine to get buffed up here. We should have maximum damage output right now, so I'm really nervous, but at the same time, I'm feeling pretty confident. To summon Rehovart, we're going to have to place these obsidian blocks kind of in like a weird formation. 2 blocks diagonally, 3 high in the corners, Demon Soul Cube on top of 2, and then put 2 more on top, and then on the outer edges, put 4 diamond blocks, and boom, we should be in. Oh my goodness, oh my god, he actually just got annihilated. These nunchucks are insane. I think I just killed him within the time span of 1 minute. Wow, okay. We need to get his drops because he's gonna drop some pretty important things for the next boss. Oh my gosh, this is insane, dude. I didn't think it was gonna be so easy. Okay, wow, so when you kill Rehovart, he drops a Wraith Sigil, which lets you shoot those little explosive, like, demon skulls. This is such a cool weapon to get from a boss. I can literally shoot the Wraith Skulls now. These things used to be such a nightmare in the beginning. I then crafted some Aberrant Stone, as it would be another core ingredient in fighting the next boss, which would be Asmodeus. By combining the stone with the Demon Hearts, which is dropped by Rehovart, I can make the Aberrant Soul Cube. I'm kind of expecting Asmodeus to be a lot harder, so I don't know. If I have to like go in and scan things and check things out and then retreat, I might have to do that. I just got to do whatever I can to make sure I don't die here. Okay, here goes nothing. It's just going to be a peaceful evening. I then traveled towards the end cities. This is mainly because trying to build the boss spawner near the spawn in the normal end seems to have some kind of conflict with the game. This is likely because the boss arena is absolutely massive, and it would essentially wipe out the entire spawn. Building the summoning altar is very similar to Rehovart's, the only difference being the soul cube. Oh, you see, okay. Oh my god. Okay, so in case you guys didn't just notice, he erased all of my buffs. His Gatling gun can erase all of your buffs, which is, it's just the worst thing ever. This is not good. I'm currently fighting him with no buffs. With the information that I had just gathered, I pretty much told myself that I needed to retreat, but not to worry because I immediately went back to challenge him. Oh my goodness, we actually did it, and look at how many levels we have to spend. With Asmodeus defeated, stealth was going to be my priority, but I also decided to make another godbow, because having a ranged option in the Lost Cities would be very necessary, and plus, it's pretty fun to be able to practically rapid-fire missiles. In order for me to go to the Lost Cities, I'm gonna have to hit like a truck. So I decided to craft the Phalese Claws Bauble, which gives you 25% plus damage, and I also decided to start on the altar room, and this would be the area that I would put the Lost City spawner. I then took the Phalese Claw and reforged it to the Violent quality, and we were back in business. And surely I'll get the Undying quality first try, right? Right? With having taken the steps to be prepared for the Lost Cities, I decided that I had wasted enough time, and it's time to get this altar down and go to the Lost Cities. When I travel to this dimension, there is likely no way back other than the warp scrolls, so I have to make every visit count. Grotesque horrors wait for me on the other side of this bed. Going to this dimension is not safe, but it's necessary for me to win. I present to you the Lost Cities. Almost immediately, I took flight to the sky. I'm not even going to try the parasites yet. My goal here was simple. I needed to build a base in the sky that would allow me to respawn back here if something goes bad, and I needed to get a waystone placed down quick. And now that I'm finally here, I can tell you why I'm actually here. The real reason I went to the Lost Cities is to get something called a dragon race ring. You guys will end up seeing why I was looking for this ring, but for now, just know that it has an extremely low spawn chance, and so in order for me to find this ring, I'm gonna have to search hundreds of chests inside of these skyscrapers and pray that I get lucky, because it's pretty much all RNG. Building the safe house was relatively easy, but I did end up encountering my very first parasite. This is also the moment that I thought to myself that the parasites aren't so bad, or maybe I'm a little overprepared. Either way, I placed down the respawn statue in the waystone and used a piece of glowstone to set my spawn point in the Lost Cities. I was now ready to fly around the map and try to find the dragon race ring. One thing led to another, and I searched one chest, and then another chest. And then another one, and another one. And then the grueling realization set in, this is going to take a very long time.
am I? Ah!
With the Ring of the Dragons, I could craft something called the Dragon Gem, and when you consume this Dragon Gem, it gives you all of the benefits of the Dragon Ring, but permanently. This is good because it frees up 2 extra bauble slots, which I can then put something else in place of. And to think all of that early game and mid game grinding was all for this moment, I consumed the Dragon Gem, immediately grew in size, and grew a pair of wings. After eating the Dragon Gem, you will experience quite a few effects. You will have flight capabilities through the use of mana, you will receive passive bonuses like fire resistance, night vision, and a solid stat boost of 25+% attack damage, 25+% health, and 50+% armor toughness. So now you can see kinda why I really needed this ring. It basically turns you into a living dragon. And with these abilities, I would now be able to take on the very final boss of this game. I would need to alter my strategy a little drastically though, as fighting the parasites while fighting the boss is not very optimal. So I decided to craft something called the Sin Pendant, which would give you the sinful buff every time that you eat. My plan was to use wine to make the sinful buff infinite. I would also go to reforge the sinful pendant to the violent modifier, and I would also adapt my strategy by removing 1 resistance ring and replacing it with a ring of reaching. That way I can hit the mobs without them hitting me. The last step was to take both of these baubles to the reforging station and to reforge them to the undying quality. And now I just had to craft another soul key and craft the soul cube for the respective final boss. But before I could make the soul cube, I had to fight another mini boss, which has a 100% chance of dropping the undead soul stone. And in order to make the correct soul cube, I have to get this soul stone. And well, thanks to that dragon ring, yeah. Wasn't much of a fight. After the fight with the Lunar Gru, I made some Shadowstone, and by putting the 4 skulls that you get from Asmodeus in the Undead Soul Stone in the very middle, you can get the Undead Soul Cube, and this will be used to fight the Amalgalich, which is the final boss of RLCraft. It was time to put everything that I had ever accumulated in RLCraft into this one fight right now. I was completely buffed on wine, I had maxed out gear and stats, I was a part of the dragon race, I had done absolutely everything possible to make myself as strong as possible for this boss fight. Everything that I have done has led up to exactly right now. Whether I win or fail, this is exactly what I have done all of this grinding for. The final boss of this game is incredibly difficult and is easily the hardest one, of course. The Amalgalich has a natural ability to suck everything in the arena towards it, kind of like a vortex. And if you are sucked into this attack, you will be instantly killed no matter what gear you have. Luckily, since I am incredibly fast and incredibly strong, I was able to get away from the suck attack, and that was pretty much my entire strategy. Avoid the suck and do the damage. And so once I was finally prepared, I finished up the construction of the altar and used the Undead Soul Key to summon the final boss of the game, the Amalgalich. This is it, folks. We have acquired the last and final bauble of RLCraft. The Wrath Pendant is, of course, the strongest bauble, and with having killed the final boss, this mod pack is therefore completed. RLCraft has been a huge journey for me, and I want to thank everybody who took the time to watch this entire video to the very end. Making a video like this is not easy, and it is very time consuming, and I just wanted to thank every single person who took the time to sit here and watch through the whole process of RLCraft. If you guys have any recommendations as to what kind of mod pack I should do next, like RLCraft Dragora Hardcore mode or something of that similar nature, please feel free to leave a comment below. And as well, a majority of people who watch this channel are not subscribed, and remember that if you subscribe, it is always reversible. I love each and every one of you for sticking around and watching this entire video, and I definitely look forward to making more quality content like this in the future, especially with some friends. But until then, I want to thank you guys one last time for sticking around and watching this thoroughly. I hope that you guys thoroughly enjoyed this as well, and as always, I will see you in the next video.